Hello, everyone. As people are jumping on, I just want to give you all the reminder that this is being recorded. And so I will be on my best behavior, just making sure that we're all just know this is going to be shared back out after we get finished. And we are being recorded. We're going to give a few more minutes for people to jump on. Again, just very excited for everybody to be here. Um, And talking about year two, it's crazy to say. We'll give it a few more minutes. Just another reminder, this is being recorded to be shared out here when we're finished, just so everybody knows. And we're putting that out there. We'll start at 1:03.
I'll also mention that this is a webinar, and most webinars do not give the capabilities to unmute or turn your microphone on, but I set it up to where we want this to have the opportunity to be a bit more interactive than a normal webinar. So attendees and participants should be able to unmute themselves and turn a microphone on to ask a question at any point.
Where you at?
But I'm still going to mute everybody so that way. I feel like we need elevator music or something while we're waiting, right? Everybody's just
Yeah, I've
or a
seen.
commercial, like just a commercial about how awesome we are would be.
Yeah,
We could do that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Mostly you, but then just me
I,
in the background doing some backup dances.
I'm just your Vanna.
All right, everyone. In the interest of time, we'll just go ahead and get going. As said before, we are recording this so that we can share it out. You do have the capabilities to raise your hand and ask questions at any point in time. The chat is also open. Our goal here today is just to give you an update on where we're at with year two in terms of direct admissions, and start moving forward with that. Without further ado, I want to introduce Dustin Rawls here. He is the Assistant Director of Statewide Services. One of the big things we heard over year one is that we could use some more help on the THEC side in terms of direct admissions. And here he is. So I'll let you introduce yourself and talk a little bit, Dustin, and then we'll get moving on the updates.
Thanks, Mark. Hi, everyone. I'm Dustin. I know some of you in here from my background, 20 years in higher ed. Just the short version. We're kind of separate responsibilities. Mark will be the post-secondary guy, and I'm going to be the K-12 guy. And so I'm going to be here. I do some of the technology and communications that you all receive, and primarily K-12 focused. And then we're going to talk about transcripts, and that's kind of in my wheelhouse too. So here to help however is needed. Glad to be a part of the team and look forward to all the good things we have in store for this second year.
So for year two, we're moving forward. We have expanded to, why isn't, there we go. We've expanded to all high school students graduating in the, or all state aid eligible seniors in the class of 2027. So that includes homeschool, the rest of the public school students who were not in, or schools that were not in, that were part of the control group. And we're expanding to seniors or to private schools all across Tennessee. So we think, based off of last year's numbers, we'll be at around 70,000 students. We've expanded how many institutions. We've have new partner institutions this year, and everybody from last year stayed on with us. So we're excited about that. And we launched earlier in terms of the Tennessee or the Tennessee Promise application, so we can start collecting the students who are going to be participating in direct admissions. So we opened that April 1st. We have around 14,500 applications at this point in time. So we're excited about how year two is starting to shape up for us. Some big things that have changed for year two. We did expand to all students graduating in the class of 2027, the state aid eligible students. We upped the amount of institutions. Pretty much all schools that are participating in the 4-year institutional side have provided us some type of aid. So that is expanded, and all students will be getting some type of financial aid. In the previous year, in our research year, we had the tier-based students. We had the 5 different treatment groups, the control group, the group that didn't get financial aid and just got institutions, and then on through that. So all students will get financial aid information on their letters and on their enrollment page. And then this is a big one that we heard from year one. We will no longer be doing student reported GPAs. We had that as an option last year. That is not an option in year two. We will only be using the GPA supplied by the high schools. At this point in time, we've opened that up. May 27th, we have around 90 high schools who have supplied their GPAs, and we see that going up each day. So we're excited how that is moving. And so just the breakdown of how it works. A high school senior that is state aid eligible, they do their Tennessee Promise application. We get that information. We get that. And then when we get the student's GPA from the high school, that's when we know the student's ready for their letter to be generated. So we then use their ACT that we have on file from ACT and generate their letter and their enrollment page. That is then sent to the student via mail. This year, that has changed a little bit also. It's going to them through their mail to their address, which we have address verification. And then there will be a bulk mail going to the high schools, to where the high school counselors will have access to the letter. And they will also still have access to it through their THEC student portal. So those are the 3 ways currently that we have, so that they get access to their enrollment page through those 3 means. They will go to their enrollment page. They will claim their spot. This year, we have it where they can select 2 community colleges, 2 TCATs, and up to 5 4-year institutions. They can choose 0. They can choose 1. They can choose 2, up to the maxes. They can't choose 0, 0, 9. It's 2, 2, 5. And so once they choose it, your institutions or the institutions on their enrollment page, that information comes back to us from Question Pro. We then put it into FAST for you all to be able to get from FAST. And then from there, the communication comes from you all on next steps. And we'll kind of get to those next steps here in a little bit. So again, we get information from 5 different places. The first place is the THEX student portal creation. That has changed recently. It used to be TSAC student portal. Now it's the THEX student portal. So if you start hearing that, that's kind of a change that has happened. So we get information from there. And then when they complete their Tennessee Promise application, we get information there. High schools supply us with the Hope 6 semester GPA. I saw a question come if we get unweighted and weighted. We don't get both. We only get, for TELS purposes, Hope GPAs. That is something we're looking into for year 3, but currently in the way our system is built, we only have the TELS Hope GPA supplied by 6 semester GPA supplied by the high schools. Then we get ACT scores from ACT. Again, this is another spot where we're trying to work through some things, but our system only stores the highest composite ACT. We don't have subscores and we don't have super scores. We're making sure on both of those that we're expressing to the counselors and to the students that they need to supply you all with transcripts and ACT scores, because we know for placement purposes, also some schools use super scores, some schools use unweighted GPAs or weighted GPAs. We understand all those things. Our system is currently built for just those 2 things because they were built for Hope purposes, which is the TELS Hope GPA and the highest composite GPA or ACT. But those are the 2 places we get it. We're working on possibly getting those other things, but we are stressing to counselors and to students that they need to share those things with you all. And the final place we get information is the enrollment form. We have added some questions there, and I will go over that. And so that's where our big file for you all, we get all that information populated from those 5 different places. So this is kind of our timeline for direct admissions. We opened up Tennessee Promise April 1st. Again, we have around 14,500 applications submitted at this point. We opened up the secure GPA for the high schools to start sharing those. We get those regularly. We're above 90 at this point in time. And a big thing we heard, and we're moving on for year 2, is the letters came too late. And so that's why we opened up Tennessee Promise a little bit earlier. And we're doing our first data pool August 17th. So when we do that data pool, if a student has a or a Promise application and a GPA on file with us at that point in time, their letter will be generated and mailed to both them and the school. And so it takes about 20 business days from start to finish for us to test to ensure the enrollment page is correct, and then test the letters correct, and then print and mail. And so we think by the middle of September, the first letters will start to hit mailboxes. And then from there, we will roll on September 8th. We'll do another data pool. That's the only Tuesday, and it's because September 7th is Labor Day. We will do the pool there. And then again, 20 business days, the letters go out. October 5th, and then November 2nd when we close Promise. If a student doesn't have a GPA on file, but we have a Tennessee Promise application on file on that November 2nd date, their letter will be generated based off the information we have. So if we don't have a GPA on file at that point in time, they won't meet the requirements if you have a GPA requirement. And so if we're not provided the GPA, we can't keep holding them. And that's just kind of where we're at. So at every pool, the student will not get another letter if they've already got one. So if they're in the first pool, and they get a letter printed August 17th, and then they send a new GPA, they're not going to get a new letter after that. They've gotten their letter. And so each student will only get one. They won't continually get new letters every time that we do a pool. So I mailed this out to the Gaggle Mail last week. There have been some changes that have been made to this, but this is what the letter, the institutional page looks like when a student has the 4 year. Um, this information is just kind of, it's not generic. It is based off the information you provided, but it's not like detailed in terms of like exact GPA and ACT. This was just basically generated with the longest scholarship names for each scholarship or each school to ensure that we have enough space for all the letterings and everything that needs to be on here. We're very excited about the addition of the scan here to this page. Um, and so if a student brings this to their high school, it's not, oh, I forgot my scan page. Now what do I do? They now have access to this page here. And we added GAMS this year. Yeah, and because we've added so many schools and so many scholarships, we've had to change up the format of the letter a little bit. We went with one page because we were worried that if one school fell on the back page, it would be printing called it the widow page, where they're on the back page by themselves. We did not want to do that. And so we did everything we could to fit everything onto one page. Trying to think if there's anything in terms of the letter. We did the front page. We moved the scan here to the top. We've added GAMS information onto the front page. And we shortened some of the wording on the front page. We also added some conditional language that all offers are conditional, and that the students have to maintain their grades and provide everything to ensure that they are still eligible for the scholarships and admissions that is being offered, and that it's based on correct information. We did update the letter a little bit, but it was more just because there was a stamp that went across the seal, and that was very minimal. We did get approval for the governor's letter to accompany this morning. And so there was some language changed on that, but nothing too much. Really just changing from you've been directly admitted to you've been accepted for admission. So this is just a closer up version of the letter, so you can kind of see, you know, how everything is looking. Yeah, this is last year's enrollment page. So just a reminder, this mirrors the letter. So if a student is eligible for 3 schools, there will only be 3 schools. If they're eligible for 5 schools in 2A, there will be 5 schools in 2A. They don't see every school on here. If they're only eligible for 5, they will only see 5. I think that was a little worry last year, is that they were seeing all the schools and they could just connect, or they could select all the schools at one time. They will only see schools that they're eligible for based off of their admission requirement, off of your admission requirements that came from you all. And so this is also where we house a few more questions. And so this is the data file updates. So we got address verification sorted out to where they have to put in an actual address now. Last year they could put 1234, and a lot of students put 1234, and we got return letters, and so it is not a foolproof. It's going to guarantee that they are mailed to them. If a student puts a real address but it's not their address, it won't come to them, obviously, but like they will be able to, they have to put in a legitimate address. If they put McDonald's, it's going to go to McDonald's, but at least it's a real address. So the citizenship status, it is asked on Tennessee Promise, but it is not required, and due to statute, we were a little worried about asking that question and making it required on Tennessee Promise. we have added that to the enrollment page and made it required. And so you will get that information. It is, I use the language provided to us from some of our advisory group people, institutions. So we have that now on the enrollment form. The military status question has been changed just so they can select a few options, but it still asks if a parent or guardian is a part of it. Most of the things, it is essentially the same. It's just where they can select two options. We did add the selective service question. So a student, if you're required to have you registered for the selective service, it will be a yes or no. We did change the verbiage around parent guardian, highest completed education. I know that was a question that people were asking in terms of first generation versus, like first generation. We did add to the enrollment form just an acknowledgement and it's a permission. I'm giving my counselor permission to share my transcript and test scores with the institutions I've chosen. We are working through how we are going to get a file to the counselors so they can see where students have chosen. And so they now know where the students have chosen, if they completed the form, and where to send the transcripts and the ACTs to you all. But they have been given permission to share transcripts. That has been run by some districts that might be a little bit more difficult in terms of sending transcripts. And we'll talk about that more in a little bit. But that being said, institutions still have, or not, high schools still have their own requirements for students to have their transcripts sent. We're providing the language to ensure that on our side, we're doing all we can to get that information to you all. But again, the districts may have other ways that the student has to do. And so we're kind of at that mercy, but we did put that there. And then there's also an acknowledgement by submitting this form. You're agreeing for THEC and the institutions chosen to contact you through email, text, phone, and through the mail. So those are the data file updates. If you're seeing something that you wish was on here, please reach out. But again, the enrollment form is a place that we're trying to make universal for everyone. It is why we are not housing the major concentration on there, because it would be hard for our people to code that in terms of what each school offers. So remember, if you're wanting something to be added to the enrollment page, it's something that has to be universal across all institutions. And so these are our next steps. We're trying to get a finalized file for you all put into FAST so you all can start creating your process in terms of getting it into your CRMs or whatever you are using. I'm hoping to finalize that in the coming week and get that up for you all and ready for you all to start using. I will update you all. There shouldn't be too many changes to that. We didn't want to do drastic changes, one, for our programmers, and two, for your programmers. So that I don't foresee very many changes coming to the format of that. We're finalizing the letter. I saw somebody asked if we could get a version of that. We will mail a new one out. But there are some changes that were made today just because of spacing wise. And so that is not totally finalized yet, but they did test it. And we're working through a lot of those things. And we're hoping to be ready to mail, because crazy enough, we're a month and a little over a month away from mailing or starting our first data pool for mailing. So this is coming fast. So we are also working through our last bit of formatting and all the uh, state or the aid and admission requirements. You might see an email come across from me just getting some type of clarification on your merit-based aid if there's some overlap and how you want to use that. So please, 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 if you see that email come across from me, um, we're trying to get through that piece so that we can start generating letters and starting to test the files. We're getting communications out to counselors, Dustin and I. We've got webinars set up for all the different versions of high schools where we'll be talking to counselors. We have so many different speaking engagements that we're going out and getting in front of them. Yesterday, I was at MTSU speaking about direct admissions and all the things. So we're getting out in front of people. We're trying to express to them all the things, letting them know about sending transcripts and all that. And so we're working on getting more communications out. And then this brings us to transcript exchange, which Dustin will jump on and talk about when you're ready.
I'm ready. So before we hop into that, I'm going to answer a question that came through Q&A since we're more on that topic at this point. So, so the question is, could we explain how financial aid and scholarships work for students who are admitted through direct admissions? Are there any additional steps students should be aware of after receiving their admission offer? You want to go or you want me to go, Mark? You go.
All right. Repeat that question one more time. That was
Could
a long question.
Sure. So if you so could we explain how financial aid and scholarships work for students who are admitted through the direct admissions? Are there additional steps students should be aware of after receiving their admission offer? So let me actually, before you go, I want to separate. So financial aid includes, the Pell Grant is a type of aid. And I'm sure you all are aware of that. I'm not trying to treat you like dummies, but our letters, our direct admissions letters, cannot include any grant money, and so there's not a mechanism to be able to put that money in there. So next steps after interacting with the direct admissions enrollment form are if there are any additional institutional scholarship offers that are tied to the college the student is going to be studying, or they're institutional generic, they need to follow through with those specific institutions to make sure they don't miss those scholarship deadlines. In addition, we all need to continue to trumpet completing their FAFSA by the April 1st deadline. So that way they are eligible for federal and state grant money on top of the institutional monies included with the direct admissions form. Did that answer the question? Is there anything additional that needs to be added?
So from our end, we are just providing the information that the institutions provided to us. And so the institutions provided us the aid, the GPA requirements, the ACT requirements. And so essentially we're looking at the student's academic record and seeing if they're eligible for those scholarships. And we're saying, hey, you're eligible for this aid at this school. So a student may be eligible for admission to your school, but they may not have financial aid on there. They will only see financial aid, merit-based aid based on if they meet the requirements or not. Same for Hope, same for GAMS. And then in terms of if there's extra to do for scholarships, we've left that up to you all. I know there are some institutions that want the student to have completed their enrollment and done an application, a scholarship application by a certain date. And then there are others that want the student to have accepted their spot by a certain date and then completed a file by another date. When we reached out to everybody about financial aid, those were the only two schools that provided that they wanted that as a part of their aid on their letter. I do ask if you are wanting to add that to your institution, we are at a place that that we are pretty tight on that. So adding that now would be difficult. And I see Amy raised her hand.
So on this question about financial aid, I think when I go over how we have done the contingency and when we release aid, that question may be answered also. So how we release federal aid with a direct admission. So if your question is, can you release federal aid with direct admission? There is some caveats to that, and I can go over that when I go over our contingencies.
Perfect. Thank you, Amy. And then in terms of will the students know that it's a Hope GPA, we have expressed this to the counselors, and we'll make sure that we let everybody know that it's the Hope GPA, and to make sure that they're sending their transcripts to you all. And unless we feel like there's another question that we need to address now, I think this is a good segue to transcript exchange with you, Dustin.
Sounds good. So thanks, Mark. When I came on board here, I've been at the agency for a number of years, but I just came on board with a new position this last January and got involved with direct admissions at that point. Spending time with the advisory group, we learned that you all receiving transcripts was a pressure point. You let us know very loudly that receiving transcripts was a pressure point. And part of my responsibility in my current role is working with National Student Clearinghouse and their transcript exchange center. And so to try to take steps to alleviate that pressure point and create a mechanism, we wanted to do a couple of things. So as Mark mentioned, we've included language in the enrollment form where student gives permission for counselors to distribute transcripts because they've interacted and given permission through the enrollment form. On the back end, we've worked with Clearinghouse to allow colleges that are Clearinghouse partners to initiate a transcript request on behalf of the student that interacted with the form. Did that make sense? Just anybody that, so in other words, if any of you that are represented that at your college, you saw a student name come through the direct admissions information, the portal of a form that or data that you've received, but you've not received a transcript, you then can go through and initiate that transcript request on behalf of the student to keep them moving through your pipeline. We don't want that to become a bottleneck where you can continue to move students through your pipeline, through your process, through completion. And so for this year, they've worked with us. Your institutions, your schools will be able to identify a person or persons that will be able to go into Clearinghouse's system to be able to initiate that process. For this year, it will be a manual one-by-one process for that, and with the hope that going into the later this fall or next year, you can initiate a batch request based on off school. So we've taken steps forward to alleviate it, but it will continue to hopefully improve to continue to ease that pressure point you all experience. So a couple of things, since I've said a bunch, you may not be a current Clearinghouse partner. The good news is the question I just saw, yes, it is free to you to participate. That National Student Clearinghouse is THEC's chosen partner for transcripts. We've covered all the costs. And so if you choose to participate as an institution, you can sign up for that, and we can connect you with the appropriate people at Clearinghouse to become a transcript receiver, to be able to, and an initiator in that part, to be able to be involved with that process. And we are recommending you take advantage of that, to be involved and be a Clearinghouse partner. That's who we've chosen to hitch our wagon to for direct admissions. And so I think it would be wise for you to consider that, because that's what we're going to move forward with in the foreseeing future. So yes, it's free. Recommend you do it. I think it's going to ease the process a little bit, and we're excited about the ability for you all to identify a person or persons to go in and initiate transcript requests for those that you don't have to continue to be able to continue them through your pipeline. So Suzette makes a great note. So though some of you are currently not partners with Transcript Exchange, some of the high schools that are involved with some of the high schools in direct admissions are also not part of Transcript Exchange. We're working it from our angle to communicate with you all to become partners. We're also working it on the K-12 side for them to also become partners. What I will tell you is Transcript Exchange in Tennessee covers approximately 50% of the districts or counties in the state, which actually covers about 70% of the total students. So, though while not everyone uses it, it does cover a majority of the students that will be graduating and coming to your schools next fall. And so we hope to continue to grow those partnerships where it becomes just the new norm that's how it works. So, let me think if there's any other clarity I need to provide. Go.
So there are a few schools that are not a part of it currently. Transcript Exchange will be reaching out in the next couple days to get you all sorted through that. They are working through a new system, I think, is what they told me, and so they will work through it with you all on how to get it, get signatures and all that, so that you can be a part of it. On your side, the training on it and the like to get through and become a member is very short. It does take the high schools a little bit longer to get trained on putting it all in and all that. But for you all to be able to receive them and pull them, it is a very shorter, it's a lot shorter process. But there's 5 schools, they will be reaching out to you all about getting on to Transcript Exchange in the coming days. So if you hear or see an email come across from Hope Reynolds, that is who's going to be reaching out about the Transcript Exchange.
And you're also, I dropped my email in chat. You're welcome to send me a message if you didn't receive anything from Hope or Clearinghouse, and I can connect you directly with them. So question came through is, will we provide documentation on how to initiate a transcript request? Is there a specific link? Yes and yes. So Clearinghouse will provide that documentation on how to initiate a transcript request. Once you become, I'm forgetting the word they refer to it in-house. So you must, to be a transcript receiver and a transcript initiator. Initiator is not the right word, but they use another word to refer to to be able to initiate that process. And those are actually 2 different platforms that you will log in and out of to use. And so, as Mark just mentioned, it's pretty quick turnaround time for you to get trained up and get access to both the initiator and the receiver portion of Clearinghouse. And they will walk you through the documentations, and they even have a little a video tutorial on how you can initiate that process on your end. I will tell you, they right up front, they don't really want to have a generic login or a generic password for their system. They do want you to have specific people rather than a shared general login or a shared password. So you can consider how you want to manage that on your end. Is there anything else I want to mention about Clearinghouse?
Schools, the high schools can batch upload to you all. You all cannot batch request. So that is also another thing that we're expressing to the high schools is like, hey, you have access to Transcript Exchange. You can mass upload all the school or students to the institutions that they've chosen. And so it's another reason why we're trying to provide that list of where the students chose to the high school counselors to help ease that stress a little bit so they can see and possibly send it to you all in a batch versus you have to request each student individually. These are all part of the communications that we're putting out there. And so we're hoping that this is just a step forward in getting the students to send transcripts to you all and get them working through the process.
I'm going to give it another minute or two. If you have another transcript request, transcript question, or that you want to chat or unmute, in that interim, I do want to take just 1 second. Part of my other responsibilities is what we call our Path to College events. And so September is College Application and Exploration Month. I'm going to piggyback off Mark's timeline and kind of tell you what we're thinking our timeline is going to work in regards to their direct admissions letters and how they're going to interact with them and work with you. So as Mark mentioned, we're going to do a data pool August 17. We're thinking 20 business days to turn around and have those letters in the mail and received. That puts letters in the hands of students, we think, the second week of September, second to third week of September. We have chosen the fourth week of September, which is, I believe, September 22nd through the 26th or something like that. That is going to be Claim Your Spot TN week. That is going to be the week that the entire month of September, from a college application and exploration set of programming, has built and been targeted towards this week is the week they will receive their letters. That we want them to go online, interact with their letters, claim their spots at your schools, and begin the process at that point. So we think that is the ideal turnaround time to reduce the amount of time that these letters sit in students' hands. We don't want them to sit in their hands. We want them to receive them and begin interacting with them as quickly as possible in a somewhat organized fashion because of our state efforts, our marketing efforts, what we're trying to do. So again, they're not exact, but we're hoping and thinking the letters will receive and be in their hands second to ish week of September, and they will interact with their online form the fourth week of September. So in theory, you all should begin to see spikes in your apps or yes, about that fourth week of September. I think that's all I wanted to mention.
Yes, and we are not telling students to wait for
No.
that date. We are not telling them to wait. That is just kind of just some marketing from us in terms of that. We are making sure the counselors know that we're not telling them to wait for that. If the student wants to claim their spot, they can claim their spot. If the student misses the first application date, or if they know they want to go to one of the schools, we're not telling them to wait. We're telling them to apply. We're making sure that the schools know if they have a partnership with a institution that comes in and does applications at the school, to not wait for us, to keep doing what you all are doing to make sure that, we're just trying to help and give another avenue for students to claim their spot and to come to your schools. And that is something we'll kind of talk about here in a little bit with one of the other, the advisory board groups or schools. But we are just want to make sure you all know we are not telling students to wait. That is just the week we are advertising to claim the spot for that first group. And we also want to make sure that we're getting communications out to all students if they get their letter or not, letting them know that they can still apply through traditional application. If they miss that first, we want you all to get your applications. We want you to get them in a timely manner. And I know we've heard, everything about this, making sure that we're not delaying you all getting your applications. And we don't want that to be a stress point for you all. And so, yeah, just want to make sure you all know that we're stressing that the student, if they don't have to wait, to not wait and to apply. This is just another avenue to be able to apply to schools. So
I was starting to type and answer this. I'm actually going to give it out loud. Are you going to use the tagline "Claim Your Spot TN" through the fall, or is it just during this week? So the Claim Your Spot TN week is a targeted approach and language to specify like the kickoff to direct admissions. Ideally, every student will have in the future, every student will have their letter, and that would be the week. That is not the case because of our staggered rollout for direct admissions interaction. So that week is the week that we're targeting. That is for the month of September, and then after that, so that's the language that we're going to use specifically for that week. And then after that, we want students to interact with their letters as soon as they get it. Counselors can maybe do a more organized things if they choose to do it. But as Mark just mentioned, we don't want them to sit on their letters. We want them to receive their letters that second, third week of September. We've identified the fourth week as the week that we want that initial push, if we can, market it and target it. And then after that, interact with their letters as soon as they receive them.
So this is one last thing. I know last year there was a longer turnaround and when a student started to claim their spot and when the file was presented to you all in FAST. I've been told that that turnaround should not happen because we were able to test and do all the things last year that we should be able to, when students start claiming their spot and start receiving their letter, the next day we should be able to start getting you your file. So it won't be that lag of a month that we had last year. The letters went out in December and then you started getting your list in January. Um, it should be a quicker turnaround. So when the students start claiming their spot, you should start to get your file, and we'll make sure to send that to you all and let you all know, one, letters went out, and two, that your files are live when students start claiming their spot. And so I think we're good there. I'm very grateful for this group. We have been meeting pretty regularly since about midway through, well, it's been since January, where we started to meet with the advisory group and talking through things and working through a process. And these people are amazing. They're your colleagues, and they've been coming on and helping us work through issues at the institutions and thinking through things. So I'm very grateful for that. They have agreed to come on today and just kind of talk through their process at their schools and what they do, and to support us and to support you all. So please, if you have any questions for them on how they make it work at the institutions, we thought this would be a great place for them to start coming and talking to you all and supplying just kind of some best practices. And so I will introduce Heather from ETSU. She's going to speak on her her ETSU supplemental question page.
Hey, everybody. Can you guys hear me good, Mark? Yep. Okay. I will just reiterate that I have also been thankful to work on this team this second year, and that Mark and Dustin and others have been really receptive to listening to our feedback, and sometimes it's negative feedback, and they have been willing to listen and change and update based on our concerns. And so just know that that is happening in the background, that it isn't just Mark saying that you are seeing some really different things because of the work they're doing, but also the feedback we've been able to give from our seats at these institutions. So I appreciate the ability to be a part of that team. I'll be really brief. At ETSU, we are participating for the second year, so we were participants last year. And as you know, we would receive the file of the promised application information. And before we did that, we knew there would be some questions missing that we needed to collect. And so we created this supplemental application. Really, we call it our enrollment form, but the student sees it as this. This is exactly what it looks like for the student. And so once they come through, the file comes to us, we have a communication plan that runs out of our CRM to these students. And to not get into all the weeds, we obviously needed a transcript from the students. So it says, hey, in order to complete this enrollment process, please make sure your high school sends us a transcript if they've not already done so, something along those lines. But then we also ask them to complete this supplemental application questions, and we just tag it as this is a part of our enrollment process. So in order to get you through the enrollment process, we need this information. And so I'm sure that this PowerPoint will be shared and/or this recording. But and I know it's hard, they're kind of small on the screen, but these are the questions we asked based on the things that we needed that we weren't collecting through the process. This year, and Mark already shared this, there have been some changes to the questions that are coming through the enrollment form through Direct Admit. And so we probably will be changing this form this year. We actually have just been talking about that this week. So for example, selective service was added in the enrollment questions that Mark mentioned earlier, as well as some of the military. And we will probably remove those from our questionnaire this year. We just haven't made that final decision. So this is last year's form. And so once we get this information, it loads into our CRM, and that's one less thing we need from them. And so for us, not only do they do this and we need it, it also gives us the ability to understand their seriousness about ETSU. And so we got lots of people through Direct Admit last year, them doing this form and/or getting us a transcript, specifically this form more than the transcript though, really helped us be like, okay, these students are probably more serious than someone who is not taking this action. And then that helped us prioritize the rest of the outreach we provided to students, because timeline last year was a little more difficult. We couldn't spend a ton of time on students who were coming so last minute into our stream. This year will be a different case. So this form was really, really influential. I see the question about how we determine residency. We determine residency based on two things. So the question on the promise application that asks permanent address, and then whether or not they've been a Tennessee resident for the past 12 months. And based on those two things, we're determining residency that way, and we're following up if needed. And then we have some processes. If the student says, well, I'm a Tennessee resident, we have them go through a process to determine that if we're not thinking that that's true. So that's all I'll say. I'll be here for the rest of the call if y'all have questions, but I'm also available anytime. I know that others on the committee that we've been working on YouTube, we've been actually meeting a lot with each other and talking about some of our own processes, and we're all very willing to support and help and give you advice based on the things we have done in our own processes. So Mark, thanks for letting me be a part.
Thank you, Heather. And so any of the advisory group, or if anybody has any creative ways that they would like to share some of their on how they do these things, we would gladly love for you to jump on, because we're a learning group. As Heather said, we've been coming together and talking through these things. And this group has been amazing in helping each other and talking to the new institutions that have come on. So if you are a new institution, or if you're an institution that was here last year, please reach out. They're amazing. They will help talk through everything. And yeah, I saw Tim jump on earlier, Tim Emmix, and I just saw something come across about Slate, and I know he would love to talk to you about Slate, because he's a big supporter of it and does a lot of work in it. So I'm happy to see that you jumped on, Tim. But go ahead, Justin.
Yeah, real quick, I just want to take opportunity. And if you were going to do this, I apologize if I'm about to step all over your feet. But thank you, Heather, for sharing the supplemental application that you all create. Just want to be clear, it's our expectation and the expectation that participating in direct admissions that you create supplemental applications or supplemental forms. We do not want a scenario where the link sends the students to your already existing application for admission. And so this is the entire heart of the initiative is that they've been admitted. You just need to ask a supplemental set of questions to help them along that process. So as Heather just shared, we hope and expect that will be what students will receive, and we really don't want students to be sent to your regular application for admission. Just want to take opportunity to share that now since we were just talking about it.
Yes, that's perfect. Thank you for that. And so I will throw it to Amy at Austin P. They have a very creative way of labeling a student as they come in through direct admit. And I thought this would be a great way, or just great information for you all.
Great. Thanks, Mark. I'm Amy Corlew, Assistant Vice President of Enrollment Management here at Austin P. I have the great opportunity to have both admissions and financial aid report to me. So when we were going on direct admission, one of the things I had to make sure is that it was not causing a hardship with financial aid. And so while I put it out here that this is how Austin P has done it, I'm in no way saying this is how you have to do it. But it has allowed us to be a little bit creative in how we have done things. So we are a Slate school. So what we have done is when a student comes in for direct admission, we consider them in what we can call a temporary admission category. Our policy had already been written to allow this, which allowed us to do this, but they still get a letter that says they're admitted. And we ask them in an email form and ask them for an enrollment form. It's a lot like Heather's. We ask a few questions a little bit differently, but it's along the same lines of what Heather does. They live in that category until they fill out the enrollment form. They cannot apply for housing. We are at a housing deficit here at Austin Peay, so we don't allow them to apply for housing. And because we want to know that our students that are doing a little bit more are housing students. They also cannot sign up for orientation in this category, but they're quote unquote admitted. So I'm still following the guidelines of direct admission. Once they fill out the enrollment form, they move into another temporary category, which allows them to apply for housing. It allows us to load scholarships, and it allows them to sign up for orientation. But they have to have that enrollment form. One of the things that was a problem here at Austin Peay is we didn't have a major, and we have to have a major for housing, living, learning. We have to have a major for orientation. So that was kind of on that enrollment form was the major information. Then once we do allow financial aid to be a RAP award for you all that utilize Banner. So we let a financial aid award go out in this category. So an award, our regular scholarships, that stuff can go out in this category. When we get the transcript and can verify GPA, then they go into what we consider a full admission. And at that point, they're just like any other student. They can do everything, and we will allow money to roll or give a balance check at this category if we have the final high school transcript. So this allows them to continue to get correspondence as they go through the categories. They get more correspondence from us. So like the huge admissions packet doesn't come until they're in the category where they're fully admitted. But they still get admissions information and letters as they're in different categories. This has allowed our financial aid office to see how they roll through the categories. It also has allowed me to predict enrollment, because let me tell you, one of the most scary things of someone in my position is how do I predict my matriculation based on direct admission? Because you're going to get more applications. You're going to get more students in your funnel, but where are they in the funnel? Are they just considered an inquiry because, they filled out direct admissions for a 4-year community college, whatever. And so, where are they in the funnel, and how can we predict? And I'm able to predict based on these categories also. I hope that helps some people. I'm not saying you have to do it this way, but this is the way we have done it here at Austin Peay.
So there was a question in the chat. Is the temp status identified with the tag in Slate so you can exclude them for certain processes?
Absolutely. It's actually included in Slate and Banner. So it goes into our SIS when we are even in the temporary category. Financial aid has just written their stuff to exclude the people, and we don't create a suggestion until they're in a category that is a true admissions, which allows the president not to see the numbers until they're true admissions, which if y'all are in my position, that's really important.
So thank you for that. I want to make sure that we fit Tanya in from UTC, and then we'll stay on for questions after that. Tanya from UTC, they're amazing. They do an amazing job with checks and balances. The amount of places they get applications from is it's kind of crazy. So being a part of the UT system and everything, I think this is a great way to talk about like making sure your list is up to date and you're not repeating services to the same student. So Tanya, are you there?
I'm here. So hi, my name is Tanya Martin. I'm the Director of Strategic Enrollment Technology here at UTC. And there are actually 4 ways to apply to UTC, which makes my heart hurt in lots of ways. And it's a lot of data because you can come through our native app, Tennessee Direct, We are a common app. And then we also have a program with UT Knoxville that's the Vol Access program, so they don't have to reapply to UTC when they apply to Knoxville. So it is complicated. And believe it or not, the number of students that apply all 4 ways is huge. And so there is a lot of duplicate data that we get as far as they've applied in many, many different ways. This is our second year of the program as well. We are a banner school and a REACH CRM, just so you've got that context as well. And so, and when they apply, we admit them, full out admitted. They can apply for housing, they can apply for orientation, they can apply for anything. And then we do the backtrack on the back end with tracking of documents and requesting things through emails and their portals and those kinds of things. So the big thing is that we use attributes in Banner and then in the CRM as well to be able to make sure we've identified these students as Tennessee Direct Admit students. I think that's also going to help us when we can go forward and request those transcripts for those students. I'll have them all tagged, so I'll have a list of who all doesn't have transcripts yet but has my attribute. I'll be able to go back and hopefully get our admissions office to be able to request all those transcripts. So I'm excited about that process to be able to finish it up. But comparing, constantly that list with Tennessee Direct and making sure I've got the right number of students tagged in both systems is critical. But I also do the same thing with my Common App and my other programs, because at any point I'm asked how many people participated in Direct Admit. Well, if I give you the number of applications I accepted through Direct Admit, that's going to be different than the number of students that participate in Direct Admit, because I'm going to take whichever application they do first. So if it's UTC's native application, I'll take that one, but I'm still going to tag them as a Direct Admit student so that we can add those in numbers in the Direct Admit numbers as well, because I'm going to take advantage of some of the other things. And I know they're more interested because they've done the enrollment form and I have multiple applications. So I have a little bit better idea of which students that I'm going to kind of chase down, and our offices will chase down over the next few months to be able to enroll them. And so far that plan's been working pretty well for us.
And so I will speak to this about Tanya. There were multiple times this year where she would reach out to me and say, hey, I have this student. I don't see them on any of my list. Can you confirm either yes or no that they've accepted their spot? And I was able to go and check and see if that student was there. It is one of the reasons I wanted you to come on, because you are so diligent about that, and then reaching out to make sure that student actually claimed their spot, and they would claim their spot at UTC. And most of the time the student hadn't, and they just got the letter and they thought they were admitted. And so again, that is a big thing that we're pushing in year 2, and something that Dustin just talked about. If student has applied, we're letting them know, like, hey, you don't need to do it again through Direct Admit, but also that, like, you have to do something. You don't just get your letter and then show up at the institution and walk in and say, hey, I got this letter, I'm in, I'm ready to register for classes. That there's more to do, and that this is just, this is information. Go claim your spot through the enrollment page, and please, please, please look out for communication from the schools on your next steps. And so we really wanted for you all to hear from some of your colleagues on how they're working at their schools. I know this is just kind of surface level, but I want you to know, again, they put their contacts in the chat. Please reach out. If you have any questions, reach out to us, reach out to them. They're amazing. They will help you work through these things. I'm not saying that they're going to spend all day helping you, but they will be able to give you some type of information. And again, I want to shout out, before we get into questions and let people go if they need to go, I want to shout out our amazing people in the group, the 3 that presented with us today. Tim Amex from Vol State, Jessica from Roan State. I got that right? And then Reggie Blair from Cumberland, Kevin Harrison from TCAT. I don't know which TCAT it is, but I know he's with TCAT. And then Troy, he is from TBR. Everybody comes together. We work together. We talk through these things. Please, 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 if you would like to be a part of it, we want your opinions. So I think another question, with that being said, we're at time. If you would like to stay or if you need to go, and if you have questions, We'll stay around until we don't have any more questions. If you have a question for the panel, I know everybody's willing to jump on and talk. So I think there's a question from Jason. So self-reported grades, if you have the availability for a student to send you their transcripts and ACTs, that is okay. We're not telling you that you have to receive it our way or whatever way everybody else is. If you're okay with students giving you transcripts and ACTs, or whatever way that is up to you. Last year, we did have self-reported GPAs. Um, it did not go over as well as we hoped it would, and it was interesting. We saw some that obviously boosted what their GPA was, but then there were some that shorted what their GPA was, and then on top of that, there were some that like they said they had a 2.0 and they really had like uh, a 2.09, which made them eligible for more aid that didn't hit their letter because they just didn't add that 0.09 on there. And so we've gone away from the self-reported GPA to us to make sure that the letters are accurate. But in terms of you all and what you collect, we are telling them to send the GPAs and again to look out for the communication from you all. So if you're willing to receive that and take the GPAs and the ACTs from the student, that is up to you. Again, we're not trying to tell you all how to do your side, but on our side, we're not going to take self-reported GPAs this year just because it can be a little difficult. That is a good point, Jess, about putting it in your supplemental data. This also could be a place that and some of our schools have I failed to mention this after Heather had talked about the supplemental page. But this could also be a place where the faith-based statements that some schools have could live, or whatever way you want to collect that. It's just, again, it's not universal for us on our side. So having that on, like on the supplemental page, which would be difficult. But again, that could be a place where a faith-based statement lived is on the supplemental page or whatever way you need that if it's past that. But again, as Dustin said, we're hoping and this like gives you clarification on how you can create it, pull information, but it's not just sending them to a full application. It is, out of what directed admissions is supposed to be. Yeah, just making it simpler and not sending them to just a full application. Any other questions, or Dustin, do you want to speak on anything?
I don't see any other questions, and no, I'm grateful for your time. Thank you all. Provide feedback as we go into our second year. We can continue this. I mean, and I say this regularly in other meetings. We're creating the future of how we do this in the state right now, and I'm not trying to make it, but this is exciting. It's a big deal. It's going to be messy. It's going to be awesome. So help us improve it for students and their families for access and success down the road, because we're building it that will, when we're all said and done, this is the way that Tennessee does it. And so it will be difficult until it no longer is. And so we appreciate your help in us all getting there.
So a few things as we're going out, be on the list. Oh, there will be the communication come from Transcript Exchange. If you're not a part of Transcript Exchange, new institutions, if you have somebody that needs fast access, please reach out and we'll send you the form to complete to get fast access. And then if you have any question, and there's a Friday meeting that institutions coming in part of. Sometimes it lasts 15 minutes, sometimes it lasts 2 hours. But it's going over the summer, it's going every other Friday. It is this Friday. I sent out the invite for that. Please come on and you get updates from us there regularly. And so if you want to be a part of that, please come on to that. And again, thank you everybody for being a part of it, and thank you the advisory group for being willing to jump on with us today. I'm so grateful for you all. So yeah, thank you all. And again, if you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, everybody.